Hi,
Hello.
I'm Julian.
I'm Tech Tom, I think. I don't know who I am anymore.
None of us know who you are, but who are we? Who are we to know who you are? All right, let's get past all the important stuff first, Tom, before we go down some weird rabbit hole. We are here to talk about dark matter. We are here to talk about episode 6, Superposition of Dark Matter. Now, full disclosure, we've watched 6 and 7. We're going to talk about 6 here, and then we will talk about 7 in a later pod. We will try to keep the spoilers for both episodes to a minimum. And Tom, episode 6, you tweeted out on the X that this was your favorite episode. You thought this one answered all of the questions that you had. And other than some weak acting from Joel, and once again, I'm reading your tweet word for word. Other than some weak acting from Joel Edgerton, you thought this was a strong showing. Please explain yourself, because I think Joel Edgerton's doing a great job.
Yeah, no, Joel's the man. I enjoyed this episode. I think this one was like a little bit slower paced. We still got a handful of like little nuggets. I think the kind of cliffhanger at the end was really good, but it was a little bit slower and kind of like essentially it was like setting up a handful of things, which I think we get a little bit deeper into in episode 7. But what was your take on this one?
See, I'm having trouble like not comparing this to 7, which I enjoyed immensely. So I felt like this was a little bit of a filler until we got to 7. So, but let's dive into it. I've enjoyed the show a lot more, honestly, than I thought I was going to. And there have been several times where I've been confused, but it's like a good confusion. My brain likes a bit of a puzzle. It's dumb and likes a puzzle, so that kind of works out, God had a plan for me, I guess. All right. So let's dive into episode 6. I want to start off by saying this episode, we get rid of the money problem because Tech Jason has now gotten the money from Leighton, and he really wants Danielle to go back to painting. Now, Danielle goes back to painting, and Danielle goes back to painting herself. Tom, if you were an artist and you were going back to paint, is Danielle just like really good at faces, or is self-portrait something that all artists like start with? Is that where this just felt really arrogant to me? I think the last thing I would want to spend a bunch of time with is staring at my own face, being like,
Agreed.
"Oh, how do I paint this work of art?" Like, and who's gonna want to look at this? Absolutely no one, other than the person who by law has to look at me because she's locked in by marriage. Like,
I feel like the alternate reality version of her painted loads of Jasons, right? Like
Right,
it was just
right.
different versions of him, or I don't know, it was like all kind of cryptic and weird looking. It does seem odd to have like your first foray back into painting be yourself, but I mean, who do you know better than yourself, right? You look at yourself in the mirror, so she didn't even need to. She's just doing it all off memory. She's obviously a beautiful subject. I understand it.
That's a good point. Like, I would paint Jennifer Connelly. I would not paint me.
Yeah.
There'd be some questions asked in my house, like, why are you painting Jennifer Connelly? And why did you buy 6 canvases that you're painting Jennifer Connelly on? But the other piece, I guess, as I work this out from a story writing sense, we would lose the reveal at the art auction if it was just like 3 wooden boats. And she's like, "Oh, I can't believe you. My picture of 3 wooden boats wasn't ready yet." And then as an audience, you'd have to be like, "Oh, she painted the 3 wooden boats." I think maybe from a storytelling standpoint and writing standpoint, it's easier if it's just a picture of her, because we're immediately like, "Oh, that's her. That's her painting."
We'll get to her reaction because I think it's justified. Like, regardless whether it's 3 boats or her, like, it is your art, it is personal. So for somebody to just take it from you and showcase it.
Let's fight this battle when we get to it, because
okay.
I think I had a different. Man, the reason you make art is to sell it. He's trying to sell some art. Not his
Yeah, they
fault.
need the money.
They need the money now that they don't need the money,
So I'm going to ask you, all right, so we're talking about money and Leighton. So he essentially sends Leighton in the box. He goes off. Do you feel... I feel like we just kind of shot Leighton out, and... I mean, are we going to hear from him? Was he just kind of like a MacGuffin just to advance the plot and to give this Jason a bunch of money. I feel like they gave too much of like a picture of like the actor who was going to play the grandfather. Like he's got to come back into play, right?
I don't know. I've done no research on whether or not this is a show. Is this show limited to one season? I hope so.
I think it's a book, and I just don't know how far in the book like this season's going to go.
Okay. I'm hoping this is I know people need to make money in television. I hope this is a single season contained so that we get all the mystery in one. I like limited series like that. If this is a limited series, we may have just pushed Leighton out the airlock, and I don't know that we're going to see him again. I had the same thought. Like, what was Leighton for if we're not going to go deeper into his story?
Right.
Because it's just that he's the vehicle for him to get money. But also we've seen that one version of Leighton in all black that's like, he's haggard in the tunnel.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're going to see him in the finale. I hope we do. I enjoy the character. I am also just a little bit worried about anyone that doesn't ask enough questions and they're like, yes, send me from the world I know into a world I don't know, into a science I don't know. Oh, by the way, I'm going to pay you in order to maroon me in a different world. I maybe this just speaks to the irresponsible nature of Leighton in this timeline, I guess, or this world. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, he essentially mentions like he's got nothing to live for in this world too. Like he just wants something new.
He has the purple pajamas in that high rise in Chicago, and he had that gentleman caller that was on the couch not wearing.
It's all just
anything.
superficial stuff, man. He wants the real deal.
Oh, okay. Well, listen. High rises and purple PJs are not to be scoffed at. They are.
Sounds like a band.
They can fill the hole in your soul, I believe.
That's their hit. That's their hit song.
Fill the hole in your soul by the Purple PJs. That makes sense. It sounds like a kids band, actually. I got to take my toddler to sort of the Purple PJs. Oh, they're gonna play "Fill the Hole in Your Soul." I was like, yeah, it's a weird song to play to toddlers, right?
Children, yeah.
My kid's like, he's really thinking deep now about why he feels so empty all the time.
Yeah,
Started smoking, drinking. I don't. Anyways, okay. So then we go. Long story short, I hope we see Leighton again. But if we don't, I think they did him a little bit dirty if this was his send-off.
Agreed.
We have Tech Jason picks up Charlie, I'm assuming for another driving lesson, or they're going to talk about dating or something.
We kind of poo-pooed all over this car that he got, this red mini SUV here. Did you clock, now that we see it again in this episode, did you clock what car this is?
I believe it's a Toyota.
I believe it's a RAV4 that both of our wives drive. Thought that was pretty funny. I guess we're just not used to the sports color laser red, but
I think this is a later model RAV4. I think this is the one before the one that we have, which is super sweet. Yes, I did have that same thought. I was like, oh no, I think that's a RAV4, and I made fun of it. But no one got upset in my house, so we're okay.
It's a Cadillac of Toyotas.
Toyotas, that's true. And they're great cars. No complaints. I love them.
It.
We have the skate park scene where Charlie is not making any headway, and then did Tech Jason purposely try to kill Charlie, or was this purely an accident? Because I feel like Tech Jason has been gunning for Charlie from the beginning because he just wants Daniela, Jennifer Connelly. He doesn't really want to be a dad, right? So
I mean, you can't go into this world. He knows like the pivot point for this world is them deciding to have Charlie. So, right? Like, isn't that essentially it?
That's fair.
Charlie does come. It's a package deal here. But yeah, it's I just like what they continually do to kind of push the fact that he's been gone for 15 years and doesn't know his family. So like all these like little things, and then they clock it later about him like flossing or like other little deals that certainly Daniela is clocking and just causing her to just like freak out about him. Right.
So we have the peanut allergy. I felt for the kid a little bit who wants to die by ice cream,
It's the way to go though.
Yeah, now that I rethink about it, that is how I'd like to go. Not by an allergy, just by like being smothered in it and slowly drowning.
This isn't really relevant, but I did recently listen to an interview with Stephen Colbert and Ryan Gosling, and he just asked him. Colbert asked him a bunch of questions, and he asked him, "What's your favorite sandwich?" And Gosling's answer was ice cream.
Yeah,
It's a fantastic response.
I saw that interview as well. He had some fantastic things to say. An ice cream sandwich is the right answer. Uh-huh. To your point, Danielle is clocking things like the arm scars, which those scars are pretty big and they're pretty noticeable. And shame on her for not. I mean, I know we're in Chicago, so we're wearing a lot of long sleeve tees, but really, we didn't see this any earlier. Also, he's flossing, which she's super offended by. She's like, "We don't clean our teeth in this house."
No.
No, that's
You don't
not
start
what it was?
flossing. Like, starting flossing is like quitting smoking. It just doesn't happen.
Oh, really? Okay. I would say using the string to like use both hands is a terrible way to floss. But those little pick things, those things are easy. Those, I mean, you floss
So
with
much
those,
plastic.
you feel.
Microplastics, bro.
Oh, no. Are we those people now? No. I don't care. As a guy that lives on Diet Mountain Dew and bourbon, I'm not worried about microplastics. The world's going to get me in a different way, much faster than microplastics.
Silent killer.
Microplastics, good luck catching up, all right? Sometimes I smoke tobacco from a pipe, too, so back off, man.
Then eat the pipe.
Eat the pipe, which is made of plastic.
Macroplastics.
Macroplastics will definitely get me before microplastics. That's for darn sure. Oh, no. All right. Let's stay on the rails here.
Oh, sorry.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Upgrade your business with Shopify, home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning fewer carts going abandoned and more sales going cha-ching. So if you're into growing your business, get a commerce platform that's ready to sell wherever your customers are. Visit shopify.com to upgrade your selling today.
Teacher Jason has decided he's going to write down his memories because that, I guess, is going to inform how he thinks and
subconscious and jazz.
Yep. So he's still trying to get back to his world, and that doesn't seem to pan out. So instead, they go to a hotel and get a steak dinner. And I was like, that sounds lovely. Maybe just stay in that world where steak dinners are free and hotels are cheap. That would be.
Yeah, do they have credit cards?
Great.
Do they just use credit card everywhere they go?
See, they made the money thing how difficult it was to transfer money, but then we watched this and they just gloss over it. So I did have, are they charging it to Mr. Underweather or Underhill, whatever he does in Fletch? They have a deep conversation about, the essence of who we are and, because they get to see their other selves in different timelines. Timelines is still the wrong verbiage, but
dimensions,
whatever.
Universes.
Dimension. Thank you. And we find out in this one that Amanda manages the White Castle, which I thought was very funny. Tom, have you ever attended a White Castle?
Attended? I've visited and eaten at them. I don't know if I would call it attended.
Well, it's a castle, so it's formal. So you attend a White Castle, and then you feast there, obviously. And this may be a controversial take. I think they're disgusting. They're like weird gray square burgers, and
they're not the best. Too many onions.
No. Oh, I don't mind the onions. I actually really like soggy onions on a gray, flavorless patty. But I don't care for the size of the burgers. That's what it comes down to. Also, they might have crinkle fries, which I'm against. Anyways, as you can tell, I have also attended a White Castle for a white wedding, and I did not enjoy it. They go dancing, which one would do in a situation like this. I really appreciated Teacher Jace being like, I don't dance. And she's like, you got to live a little. I want to point out that I enjoy, and I think this is the show being a show, I enjoy Teacher Jason and Amanda and the time they spend together. I think the two of them have a chemistry which, I don't know where the laws of marriage land in this unique situation. It's not written down, but I do like spending time with them. And I don't care for dancing. I think it should be outlawed. But I did enjoy this kind of them having fun together and getting to know each other, which leads to the hotel room bed, which this is going to sound terrible, but I thought I clocked Leighton on the dance floor in this scene. I even rewound it, and I'm pretty sure there's a glimpse and they linger on him, but I might be wrong.
Ooh, that'd be very interesting if that was the case. I did not clock that.
Yeah, but it never came back, so I was like, okay, so maybe I'm just trying to be a Tom Sleuth.
Which Leighton was it? Was it Leighton that just went on for his travels and like the white get up, or was it the one that was a bit haggard and went from
No,
Jurassic
this Leighton
Park
was
land?
dancing. He was having a good
Okay.
time. So this is
Okay.
purple PJ. This is purple PJ Leighton, 100%.
Okay.
This guy didn't have a care in the world. I mean, those hips weren't lying, as they say in the dance community. Speaking of hips that don't lie, these two are in a hotel room, and some chemistry's happening, and he sends her away, and that made me.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Sam and Diane, right? Like it's the will they, won't they. I'm with you. Like I like what they're doing here because, again, the relationship dynamic is just entirely different. Where she's known him his whole life, he's only known her for a handful of days essentially while they're trying to travel back. It's incredibly well done. The writing for them,
Right.
and I like how even in this part here, like this could be a pivot point. Like Jason could say, like, okay, maybe this is the life I was meant to lead, but still decides, like, no, I'm trying to get home. This can't all be for nothing.
Yeah, there's a world where he stays, and they share that hotel bed.
Right.
Now, when you say Sam and Diane, you're referring to the Cheers episode where Sam goes through the portal in the back of the bar,
Correct.
and then there's an alternate version of him and Diane, and ultimately, I believe they murder each other in that episode of Cheers. It's like season 2. So that's
Yeah.
the Sam and Diane you're referring to?
Yeah, I think they go to like a lake house or something. I don't know. I never see that movie. Doesn't it
Right,
have some
right.
weird
They send
timey-wimey
each
stuff?
other. Yeah, they send letters back and forth. That's
Yeah.
right. I was thinking about Cheers, the TV show, Tom. So, I don't know why you said
Speaking
the
of Cheers,
movie.
did you know Ted Danson and Woody Harrelson have a podcast now? Don't listen to theirs. Listen to ours.
Everyone, Tom. Everyone famous has a podcast. Like this is what we're doing here. You know, we're for the normal people. The visiting of Amanda as a therapist by Tech Jason, I thought was
So good.
very good.
Yeah.
Very good. And especially to cut it between these two. Like the romantic side of this one, and they do that camera trickery where you only see the back of your head, but the whole time you're like, it's Amanda. I know it's Amanda. It's therapist Amanda. And then they show you, and you're like, oh, she looks great as a therapist as well. She's managing White Castles. She's therapusting this guy. She's doing great things all over the place.
Yeah, like using the limited characters that we have and kind of keep bringing them up, and then the fact that like Tech Jason would specifically go to seek her out and have her be the therapist is just so egotistical. And like I think at this point I'm okay to call this guy like an evil Jason. I think his circumstances, he's kind of become a bit evil.
Yeah, he's made some choices that I would certainly disagree with. Is this him testing the waters with someone that he's had a relationship with, or is this really he just knows her in the other timeline and he needs to talk? Like, do you think this is nefarious that he's gone and found Amanda and now is establishing a relationship with her? Is this him trying to... When Charlie doesn't die and he's stuck with Charlie and Daniela's always mad at him about paintings, is this the start of an affair with his therapist who she doesn't know him but he knows her?
I feel like he just maybe felt more comfortable to open up with her or whatever it might be. Like I don't know. It might just be more of a show or bookism kind of a deal, but I feel like I just don't understand really his motivation. Like if he's really that upset in this world, he's got a box. You can go in the box, he can think about something else, and he can go join some other world. But then we find out at the end of this episode, he decides to concrete this thing. So like I don't really understand this Jason's motivations because he seems to be flip-flopping quite a bit.
Sure. Do you think it's fun as an actor to do a show like this where you have to play different versions of yourself? Like none of them are like too terribly off from the other. Like Amanda's got some subtlety that I feel like that actress does a great job. And Jason, there's like Joel Edgerton is doing some. I guess it would be silly if he was like mad scientist, like evil Jason,
Yeah.
and then played like normal straight laced. Like we've seen that before. Like this show is pretty interesting in the fact that their differences are a little bit subtle. So
Yeah, it's all around the edges, like little
Yeah.
mannerisms or like a way he approaches different, like driving the car and all that kind of stuff with his son. Like,
Right.
Like it's subtle but very well done.
trying to live in a world where he doesn't know like about the last 15 years, but he's got to pretend like he does, and that is once again, I wonder if for Joel Edgerton he's having a good time, or if he just wishes he could get into a box and leave this show, go do a different show.
Well, Joel Edgerton is a method actor, so he actually has to embody, and he uses a real teleporting
Cube?
box. Yeah.
The Daniel Day-Lewis of Australia, I've always said that.
Yeah.
Daniela shares her concerns about Tech Jason, and she shares them with Blair. And Blair's advice is, don't confront him, you need to follow him. How'd we feel about this advice, Tom?
Oh yeah, strong agree. Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's being super sus. You
Track
tiptoe,
marks.
you follow.
Yeah. I agree. You follow him around, you do a little sneaky sneak. Obviously, if he's got a storage container, there's probably bodies in there. So certainly don't tell anyone where you're going and follow him. That makes sense. I mean, what if he was going to a meth house? You don't want to follow someone to a meth house, you know?
Well, you follow him like to the meth house. You don't go in the meth house. You just assume from there.
Well, how are you getting your meth if you're not going in?
Well, I mean, he's going in.
Yeah, but if I'm going to make the journey to a meth house, I'm going to go in and try some meth. That's crazy. You wouldn't go to a White Castle and not attend the White Castle. You know, you wouldn't stand outside. You would go in, you would attend the meth house and have a feast, just like a White Castle.
Okay, you're right.
Thank you. All right. We get a fancy date where he's dressed up. I always like this where they like leave the dress on the bed. If I ever tried that, it would go so poorly. It would be like, why? The question would be, I would say something like, hey, I put the purple dress on the bed. I think you should wear that. Then my spouse would be like, you mean the brown dress? Because that is most certainly not purple. And then I'd be like, whatever color. And she'd be like, I'm pretty sure that is a bathrobe, and I'm not wearing that in public. And then I would be like, okay, well, I guess we're not going on our date to the charity auction. And then we just wouldn't speak for the rest of the night. So
Yeah,
I love this idea where he's like, I laid out this dress for you. It seems romantic, but I think in reality it goes terrible. Tom, thoughts?
No, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't think me picking out my wife's outfit would go well. I feel like if she picked out mine, I would just go with it. Whatever she put out there, I'm like, boom, I'm in. So I don't think it worked in the reverse.
No, it certainly does not. Okay, so we go to the auction. We know this is going to go poorly. The show is just telegraphing because he's trying to do something sweet.
Right.
And sure enough, honestly, it's a super cool like painting. If this existed in real life, I'm not saying I would buy it. I'm not saying I would bid on it at an auction. But it is kind of a cool, because it's not just like a portrait of her. It's got like the black swirl, black hole, like so it is a cool painting. But
I would argue it has some dark matter in it.
yeah, oh, that's good. That's pertinent to something. I don't know what. But she yells at him. They get into a fight. She's an artist, and art's important, and it's personal. And as I pointed out, I've already telegraphed my opinion. I think he's in the right here. I think he should be able to sell. I think you should be able to sell any of your spouse's stuff at any point, regardless of what it is, or at auction. And I think the law backs me up on that.
Well, he could sell half of the painting. So maybe he's just selling the half
That's a
with
good
her
point.
face, or the half with the dark matter.
Yes, the parentheses on the plaque at the bottom was like, only half of this painting is up for auction. The other half you have to ask the artist for. Yeah,
It's like
I
a
don't know.
Banksy. It gets shredded halfway and then stops.
Oh, look at you being a part of the art world.
But this
so
is,
hip.
again, like, just keeps reiterating the idea that this is not her Jason, right? Like, her Jason would never do something like this.
Her Jason never would have told her to get back to painting. He would have been like, hey, why don't you run that art gallery and make us some money? No one's got time for art in this family. We teach science and we sell other people's art. So yeah, I think Jennifer Connelly is killing it in the show, by the way. I think
Agreed.
in terms of like having to play very different characters, I almost feel like she has the most work to do because she has to be like dying in one. She has to be blonde in another, which we all know is difficult as two blonde people. It's difficult to be blonde. Certainly when you're born a much smarter, darker hair color. And then she also
I think
gets,
like Alice Braga too, like Amanda, like she's absolutely carrying it too. Like I think the women in this are like so incredibly like strong and like just deliver the drama and everything to this show and like are the glue essentially that's kind of tying all this together.
Right, I agree. But off mic, you were saying how you thought the men were much better than all of the female actors.
Joel Edgerton. Yeah, evil Joel Edgerton is the best.
Yeah. You actually said some pretty terrible thing about all the women in this show, but we won't record that. We'll cut all that out, obviously. Sorry, Tom. Speaking of blondes, are we to her blonde, or are we still... No, she follows him to his storage container, which... Tom, have you ever been to a storage container in Arizona? They don't have air conditioning, and it's terrible. That's all I was thinking about, is having to lug file boxes in a file container when I worked a job in high school, and there was no AC. And I'm pretty sure
money. He's probably paying for the AC unit.
They would have found my body in that storage container, clutching that last box of legal
Storage
files.
Wars. You bid on Storage Wars. You find a Julian skull.
Yes, yeah. Good luck selling it. One of a kind. This is... Okay, she finds the vial of drug, and is this where she immediately takes it to Ryan?
Yeah, I think essentially takes it to Ryan. Then Ryan says, like, hey, I can sequence it and figure out what it is.
Sure.
Which I think is interesting. I gotta ask this question, though. I get Ryan's tech genius in this world, like, super smart. Is sequencing that easy? Can you just take anything and sequence it? Because I feel like if it is, we should know Colonel's recipe by now.
Sure. We should know Colonel Sandals' recipe. We should know all the 24 spices in Dr. Pepper.
Yep.
And we should also know what makes Rice Krispies crisp. I think for a chemical engineer or whatever Ryan is, like I'm sure sequencing is easy for him. Mm-hmm. If you mean is sequencing easy for people like you and I, then that is why the crispy chicken recipe and Dr. Pepper are still a great mystery in our lives, Tom. Because
I just picture you getting this lavender fairy. You like tap it and you put it on your tongue. You sniff it. You try to figure it out. Like getting hints of a blueberry.
I'm pretty sure there's blueberry in this, guys. It's just me in a lab coat surrounded by scientists, and I'm like, all right, it's sticky like jam, and it looks like it's grape flavored. So I'm pretty sure this is just grape jam, right, guys? Should we all go home? Is that lunch? Sequenced. You don't have to call me doctor. I'm not a real scientist, as you can tell.
But I do want to ask this question, though. Do you feel like in this world, we've already kind of talked about their marriage might have been like a little bit shaky. Tech Jason coming in, like kind of tells off Ryan in the beginning, like, hey, stay away from her. So I think he's kind of jealous. Do you think in this world, like this Ryan and this Daniela are like having an affair, or are they still just friends? Like, what do you get a sense for there?
Let me ask you this. Do we know... We get the sense from Tech Jason's world that Ryan pines after her, right? Because he's kind of like the frumpy guy in that world. And so I'm wondering if he, just from his own world sees that and assumes that this Ryan is a little bit more successful and not as rotund. And so he is maybe acting on that knowledge and what he's seen in his own. But we do know that their relationship is a little bit rocky, right? Like Teacher Jason, like our original Jason and Daniela. So yeah, we don't know the gist of that. But we don't know if that comes from the child that, has the Max's tree in the backyard, or if that's just from money problems or whatever it is, or just, people, once you spend more than a couple of years with a person, I mean, you start to resent them, regardless, So... But it lasts for your whole life and then you die. So that's okay, right? I don't think my wife. I think my wife stopped listening to us, so I don't think she's going to hear any of this.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Other than that, ad money we don't get anymore. So I don't know that there is like fear of an actual affair or if something happened, but I do feel like Ryan is the guy that's waiting in the wings to be the shoulder to cry on.
Swoop in.
Yeah, the swoop in, as you have always referred to. I don't know, someone. I didn't know where to go with that, so let's just move on. Let's move on to blonde Daniela at this art gallery. What are your thoughts? Dark hair, blonde. What's your preference? And by that I mean the color of the art gallery, because the walls were different in this art gallery than the last.
They were more blonde. The art gallery.
This one blonde walls. The other one brunette walls.
Good save.
So the
what's fun is just to see. Go ahead. You got more?
No, I never have more. I've already painted us into a weird corner, so get us out, please.
You've dyed us into a weird corner.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, I like the idea of, if we're going to all these different multiverses, like people would probably have different hairstyles or different looks and that kind of stuff. So I think this is kind of like a fun little thing to do. But essentially, like, he's trying to hit on her or figure out who she is in this world, but she's not really having it, right?
No, she says no. Although leading the conversation with, I have a wife and we're kind of separated, and not really committing to that, and then asking someone out for coffee. Listen, I've been out of the game for what seems like an eternity. I don't know if that would work anyways. But it was certainly a weird opener. I would like to see the version of Joel Edgerton with blonde spiked hair, and he's in like a leather vest with those gloves that have no finger, like the fingers are cut out. I would like to see, I guess, like the Billy
Idol?
Yeah, Billy Idol of Joel Edgerton's. Sure, that's something I meant. All right. In this same world, Amanda sees herself as a mom. And I think they foreshadowed this a little bit, but I felt like this is where I started to clock that Amanda realizes she's maybe too focused on teacher Jason finding his world, and that she needs to find her own. This felt like a poignant moment for that character.
And we've had like Blair essentially kind of say that to Amanda when they had kind of their aside, saying like, hey, you gotta, find your own world kind of a thing. You can't just keep chasing Jason around. And I mean, I think at this point we kind of get the clear sense that, Amanda's essentially the issue and why Jason can't get home, right? Because like her subconscious, her thinking when they're in the box, like you can only wipe your brain enough. She still kind of has her thoughts and what she wants to do. And I don't know if it's in this scene, later scenes, but she essentially takes like the same concept of like journaling and kind of like writing down the world that she wants to see. There's a really quick frame where you kind of see her journal, and it says a world of joy and hope and radical empathy. And then she writes radical empathy again and like underlines it. So that's essentially the place. And then it says a place that can be home. So, and essentially that's where I think she's wanting, and that's what she's envisioning for herself.
Sure. Her world sounds terrible,
Right.
It sounds like a world void of sarcasm, which I would not last, and we would struggle. We would be rejected very quickly. The world would be like, please re-enter the box and kindly leave. I like the show aspect of the ampules, like the countdown and like the kind of inexorable like walk towards, okay, we only have a finite amount. And I think that's a really cool mechanic. Whereas like rather than a ticking clock or anything like that, we have they open the box, they show how many we have left as we work our way down.
Because like the idea of a multiverse, like there's unlimited amounts of places they can go, but they only have the means to potentially visit so many.
Sure. We then have the scene where Ryan accosts Tech Jason because he has his hands on that compound. And I guess this is the compound. He's like, how are you in my brain? And like, how did you come up with this on your own? And I just wish we had more of, it's Jimmy Simpson, right? That's the actor's name. I really like him. I wish they gave him more to do in this show. He's used perfectly, but I would very much enjoy more of him.
Yeah, just more screen time. Because it's fantastic. And then what does Jason do essentially? He kidnaps him, takes him to this box, like shows them, hey, like what you've designed, it works. Or I guess that's the question too, is like he's designed this lavender fairy or whatever this compound is, but he hasn't designed the box. So Tech Jason is showing him like the use case for it, but I still don't really understand what Ryan's use case was for it in his lab or whatever he was doing. Did we get a sense for that?
No, you're saying, because in Tech Jason's world, he went to Ryan and was like, hey, I need a compound that shuts down this part of your brain.
Yeah.
In Teacher Jason's world, Ryan created it, and I think he makes mention about like pain management and stuff. I think that's some of the things that he...
it's like a different application.
Yeah, different application, but I mean, they yada it a bit, but he does take him to a beautiful, Northern Lights Chicago, and he's like, hey, enjoy your time here. I'm going away. And then
it seemed like essentially like a utopian style Chicago with like more architecture. Yeah, Northern Lights, I guess, are hitting us, which I would argue is probably not a great thing if Northern Lights are hitting us all the way down in Chicago. I feel like that happened recently, and it doesn't sound great for the planet. But it almost kind of thinks he's like locking Ryan here, and then we get the kind of end of the episode where he's just sealing it up with concrete, so essentially like locking Ryan out. He doesn't have any sort of way to get back. I kept thinking, like, are we going to see more of this Ryan? Like, do you think like maybe he's going to get locked here, or we're going to see him in like a second season? I feel like that would be like really cool to see. Like, you pick it up, like, completely different storyline, but now you're just taking on what Ryan's doing in this world.
Right. No, I would watch it. I wonder if, like, the beginning of the finale, we're going to get the endorphin hit of, like, what's happening with Leighton, what's happening with this Ryan, and then, like, kind of giving us a top-off on those characters. Unless we have a second season. If we have a second season, then I have no idea what they're gonna do. But Leighton's character and Ryan's character, I'm invested, mainly because it's like they've marooned them, and so you want to know where, as a guy that's reading a lot of books about old wooden boats and Captain Cook's final voyage, the idea of like marooning people or landing on an island no one's been on and having first contact, I find that concept very interesting, and this show is doing that just in a different way. But this leads us all to a little bit of construction work. Now, do you think he got 3 quotes before he went with the guy that he went with on this? Do you think he shopped around, or do you think he just went with the first guy?
Didn't we find out like this is like Leighton's guy that essentially like helped set him up to be able to do this? I feel like I heard that or read that or saw it in the video or something.
No, it's definitely the contractor's like, he's like, hey, I'm here, and he's like, oh yeah, Leighton recommended you. So it was a referral, but you still got to shop around a little bit, even if, like, that guy probably gives Leighton a good price, but is he going to give Leighton's buddy a good price too? Maybe slightly, but he's not going to give him the Leighton price. You got to shop around, drive those prices down.
I would also argue you only needed like one side of concrete or just to close the door so the door can't open. You didn't really need to concrete the entire box. That's just wasted material.
Why wasn't it just a cross of duct tape? Like 2 strips, he slaps it, and he's like, no one's coming through again. Or it's like him trying to install like a deadbolt. Like, that would be funny, watching him like drill a deadbolt, and he's got the holes misaligned, and he's like looking at the directions. We just get 15 minutes of Joel Edgerton trying to install a lock. I'm on board. I'd watch that YouTube channel. I don't know.
Yeah, and we already established like the door opens inward. So, I mean, if you go to this and you see it like locked out, I don't know. I guess we did have that one world where it was just dirt and they didn't try to like get out of that. So if you open the door and it's just concrete, you figured, oh, okay, I'm just going to go try another door. but you could break through this pretty easily, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, think about all those guys that do karate. They're breaking concrete bricks all the time. I bet if you really, I mean, you have to shout karate and you use this part of your hand. I'm pointing at the bottom of my knife hand, and you hit that concrete. I haven't done a day of karate, but I've watched videos. I'm sure I could punch through concrete. Once again, you just shout karate and you do it. I may have
a conviction.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. You got to commit. You can't do it at half speed. If you're gonna break concrete, you got to go full bore.
Break your hand.
That's what one-armed Jack said. Anyways, let's get to episode 7, Tom, because I don't have a lot of questions about episode 6, and I have a ton of stuff to say about episode 7. For those of you that are joining us and you're just going to listen to this one and not go on to 7 because you've realized what our shtick is, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And you can email us at teambingepodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from people. It's so much fun. We've got people that listen to us overseas, and they say, please stop exporting this to our country. And we say thank you for the email. Buy a t-shirt. And, Tom, what'd I miss?
Yeah, for sure. Follow us on the socials at Team Binge or at Team Binge Podcast at Twitter and Instagram. Keep us posted. Let us know what you think of the show. It's been fun to kind of go on there and see people just kind of wiling out about some of the twists and turns of the show. And it seems like it's been incredibly well received, like high viewership from what the internet is telling me, and people seem to be enjoying it, which I certainly am as well. So we've got 7 here coming up, 8 and 9 I think is the final. So handful left. I'm excited for the end of the journey.
What's interesting is I listen to other podcasts on TV and stuff, and I don't feel like I've heard anyone talk about this show. I don't know if it's just a group of diehard fans. I'm assuming most of the discourse is what you and I talked about for most of this episode, is whether or not blonde or brunette is the right choice, right?
Yeah. What's your art style? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. What color do you want the walls? I have been Julian.
And I've been hairdresser Tom.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's how we're going to end it.